So a few years back, I had the opportunity to collect something that I had never seen before and I don't think we'll ever see again, and that is almost the entire library of a nuclear engineer. Um, this is the collected library, notes, and papers, in part, of Jerry Silverman, who was a nuclear engineer who worked for um, General Dynamics and obviously went to Yale and played a part in the history of the Manhattan Project and in U.S. Um, nuclear war. He was he obviously worked on nuclear submarines in his life, and at some point after he passed in 2013. It seems that his estate was um, bought by some people who then liquidated it onto eBay. And I managed to get quite a lot of the materials. And I'm really glad I had this opportunity and that I was able to keep as many of the materials together as possible because this has not only his notebooks here from Yale, these as well as these up here, um, but also his books that he used to learn um, nuclear engineering, as well as books by his peers and books that he contributed to. Also, like there's a book here that the one that's open is on geometry and space dynamics, shape dynamics, and it's one of the more interesting books that I've ever found, and I never would have found it if it weren't for the fact that Jerry owned it before. The reason I call him Jerry instead of his full name Jeremiah, which is written in a lot of his books, is because in correspondence and notes from his peers, they always call him Jerry. So it's obvious that he went by Jerry um, in person. And so it's a little stiff to call him Jeremiah. Um, but I've had Jerry's collection for a few years now. Actually, it's interesting. I didn't get all of this at once. They were in a lot of different lots on eBay, and once the seller saw that I was very interested in his letters and papers, um, they ended up like offering to send me all of it in one batch, basically. And of course, I went for it. But also, they had a bunch of his books as well. And Jerry wrote his name in all of his books. He actually wrote his name, and he wrote the year and sometimes the month that he got it, and also usually the city and country that he was in whenever he got it. So you can actually tell where Jerry is in the world and in his life by what's written in the books, which is amazing. So having all of this together, from when he's learning nuclear physics at Yale to when he's later on in his career, like he's in some of the materials that I have are like in the very beginning of the Cold War, like sort of the he's like the early 50s and the late 40s, that kind of period where things are still kind of coalescing into the formula that we all associate with the Cold War today. Um, like he's over in Europe, um, doing stuff in Bern, Switzerland, and he's in Germany sometimes. I'm gonna guess West Germany, um, and I actually don't remember whenever it is that Germany split up. It might have been a full-on Germany at that time. But looking at Jerry's materials is a lesson in world history, to be sure. Every time that I find something, I'm constantly looking up like what happened during this year, what was going on um, for the U.S., what was going on for the world, and like his materials are a part of that. Now, I I've never really known what exactly I want to do with these. Eventually, I want them to be in a museum or library where people can access them. But until then, in my possession, I really want to show people what it is that um, I really want people to look into this collection, to be able to see into to what he had, because I know this isn't something that we normally see. You don't usually get to see this whole collection of the span of a scientist's life and like that work. But also, I have 3 or 4 feet. I don't know how to measure these papers. I have all these sheets of paper, and if you stack them all up, it's like 3 or 4 feet high. And they're all scientific papers that Jerry collected throughout his life. They're of his peers. Some of the like they're from so many different countries. They're from so many different journals, and most of them are copies of papers that his peers have sent him for review or as a token of esteem. Like you could get a courtesy, like 5 to 10 courtesy copies of paper sent out to whichever addresses you wanted whenever it got published by certain papers or certain journals at that time. And so a lot of times there's like a note, like, sent from the journal on behalf of so and so. And like it's really amazing to see like the professional connections there, the friendships. Um, I don't know a whole lot of nuclear science and a lot of like calculus and post-calculus math. I don't even know much pre-cal. My mathematical knowledge pretty much cuts off at trig, but looking through the papers um, is amazing in terms of an education in nuclear, not just nuclear engineering, nuclear fission, but there's also stuff on there. He was reading papers on nuclear fusion, so like that's really relevant right now. And it's really interesting handling the papers themselves as opposed to looking at an online copy or something. It's just so much more tangible. So Jerry had an extensive collection of very important materials to be sure, and it ended up just going onto eBay. And I feel like I rescued it. This was sometime, I think, in 2020, maybe 2019. No, I think it was 2020. Sometime in 2020 that I purchased a lot of these materials, and um, it was right before everything started getting affected when it came to shipping and when it came to just a lot of small business stuff. I just feel like when I got it, I was kind of hitting the cutoff of when you could really get it. And then uh, the sale was posted several different times. Like I got a bunch of stuff in one swoop, but then there were more materials that were posted later. So at first there was all of his papers, and I managed to get most of those. And then I went back like a few months later and managed to find like I think the rest. Like the seller actually sent me um, just filled up the rest of the box with the rest of the papers that were Jerry's and said, "Hey, you're obviously the most interested seller here, or you're obviously the most interested buyer here. Here's the rest of his papers. Enjoy." So I got it all in terms of his papers, but that's like the um, the copies of papers that were in scientific journals and industry journals. But in a different lot were his notebooks, and I didn't realize at first that these notebooks from Yale for scientists, from for science classes and math classes, were actually Jerry's as well. And so when I realized that, and then I saw the seller had posted a lot of the photos of the books that they were offering as well that were on nuclear engineering or on nuclear science, and posted on the inside cover, I could see that those were also owned by Jerry. And I was like, oh man, this is all his stuff. So I tried to get as much of it as possible. I really tried to get the most pertinent stuff. Some of the books I ended up passing up. Some of the collection I ended up passing up. I tried to get. I think I got all of his notebooks. Anything that was very personal, I tried to get and keep together. And then some of the books that I didn't pick up were like they're kind of generic. Like you could get that book pretty much anywhere. I tried to target the books that were very particular to Jerry, or would kind of fit into his history. Um, Whereas, like these yellow books right here, this thing here, um, woof, um, there's a lot in that particular series, and they're pretty common. So I got a few of them, but I didn't get all of them. Um, Looking back on it, I kind of feel like maybe I should have, but I still see a lot of these books posted all the time. So um, it just it's really really amazing to go through this whole collection. I started this not knowing a whole lot about nuclear engineering, and now I can recognize a lot of stuff that's like it's really helpful whenever I'm looking for materials going forward. Like Jerry's taught me a lot, and I think he's a really um, I think he was a really amazing person, and I'm glad to kind of help perpetuate his legacy. I've actually found a little bit of evidence of him online. You can research him and find out little bit about his service and stuff. Um, and like I found his obituary. That was Yale put it up. So like I I'm kind of amazed that this stuff was on eBay. It's one of the things that kind of surprised me. I would think that people would kind of keep close hold of this or do something with it besides just letting it all get cleared out. But whenever people pass, there's all kinds of things that happen to estates, and there's no telling who's going to be there to take care of things and make decisions. So I'm just glad that I happened to be there and be interested. It was all of it was a really good deal. The books themselves are extremely interesting, and I, I've learned math. I've learned math from having this here. So I'm going to try to show one of Jerry's materials. Um, I don't know if I'm going to do one a day, but I'm going to try to shoot for something pretty regular here because I've really just been wanting to share this collection with a wider audience. And I think now's the time for people to really start thinking about um, America's nuclear legacy and really start keeping nuclear science and nuclear history and nuclear current events at the top of your mind because this stuff's this stuff's happening. And so one way to make this more tangible and easier to understand is to actually understand its history and to see its history. And it's a lot more tangible to me when I can look at these notebooks and understand that a lot of this knowledge that drives all of this nuclear technology, it was made during an era that like these notebooks, the little blue notebooks here are from 1949. Um, like this stuff's 70, 80 years old. Mm, yeah, 80 years old. So maybe a little older than that. Might be around 90. I'm not sure. But um, this is the stuff that bangs the atoms together. So, we're going to take a look inside. Um, Stick around, subscribe or like or comment. If you have some questions, I might be able to answer them. I might not. We'll see. But I just I really want to share what's inside this collection because Jerry was a very interesting, very smart man, and if we all understood as much as he did about nuclear science, maybe the world would be a different place right now. Cheers.